All right, welcome to this episode of Stampscapes Live. We're going to be trying some holographic printable vinyl here with the Mystic Images, and if there's a lot of going on in this video, I apologize. I'm coming up with this composition on the fly here, and I'm thinking about some different usages or compositions here than what I've been doing. So I'm trying to consider like some different textures and applications of the media on here that I just haven't done before. Okay, so that being said, I thought I would try this one. This is a 3.5 by 8.5 right here. You can get like 3 pieces of this size out of one sheet of this vinyl sticker paper. One note is that this is a holographic printable vinyl sticker paper, okay? There's holographic cardstocks where you can kind of go for the same type of look, but the media application is going to be slightly different, okay? So just keep that in mind and use the right types of media for what you're doing. Or, you might have to use some spray sealants or something of that sort. If there's ever any questions about it, just drop me an email. You can get it kind of figured out. Not that I know everything about every media, but I know kind of the properties and compatibility issues with most of the things that I'm using, unless I'm using it for the first time ever, but I can kind of figure out things or a little bit about it with my first usages, okay? So, that being said, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be applying a Brilliance white pigment ink, okay? So this is different than other types of white pigment inks, all right? It's water-based and fast drying as opposed to an oil-based and maybe cannot dry on non-porous surfaces, all right? So just keep that in mind. In my opinion, everyone should have a couple different Brilliance pads, black and white, as it opens up some doors for just a lot of different possibilities on what you can use for your surfaces here. Hello, Beth, how are you? So I just did this one on what would seem to be an impossible type of surface to really stamp on, but the Brilliance open up the doors for this kind of area down below here. So I don't know. It works very well, and there's only one. I have no affiliation with Tsukaneko, okay? But it's just, this is the only ink of its type. And I don't know why, because it opens up so many doors for your non-porous surfaces, your glossy cardstocks, iridescents, your foils, your metallics, all of the metallics that I've tested so far. And the printable vinyl sticker papers, which there's so many different types of this available these days. But a lot of, types of traditional stamping usages. Sometimes you wouldn't stamp on something like this, but it really becomes a very dynamic surface. So glad you're able to watch, and welcome to the lives. I'm doing this one a little bit early today. I usually come on a little bit later on Fridays, but I wanted to get some things done, and I had just finished up a big project, or my preparations for a big project coming up tomorrow. So I thought, okay, I want to get around to some of these things that I wanted to test out, so I'm jumping on a little bit early. Okay, so this is just applying some of this pigment ink with a cotton ball. And again, this is the fast-drying water-based version of pigment inks. Okay, Tsukaneko came up with this a long time ago because everyone was stamping on glossy cardstock. In addition to matte cardstocks, most people had glossy cardstock in their supplies. Okay, there were a lot of accessories. I've mentioned this story before many times, but if you were stamping in the 90s, or especially in the 80s, but 90s, there weren't a ton of different things that people were using at that time to stamp with in terms of inks and, just other types of media. There were colored pencils and, your water-based Tombow and La Plume pens, the Marvy 1500 markers. And So if you didn't have glossy cardstock, which worked really well with the Marvies, you were missing out on like, I don't know, like 25% of the different, supplies out there. So it was matte and glossy cardstock in your pens. All right, so I'm adding this down. This is going to go over here, okay? So I want to block out some of this paper. You can stamp directly on the top of this paper here, but that is a very loud surface. So I'm kind of muting it. You see where that white pigment ink right here? I don't have a big application of it on there yet, so it's not blocking out too much right now, but it's a little bit more muted right in here where we're building up some opacity over the top of this paper. Okay, so we want all the benefits of that type of surface right there, but just not to overpower everything. Hello, Sandy. How are you today? All right, so you just kind of build this up, and one of the things that I always mention to people when you're doing this is not going to go on like really smoothly, so don't even worry about that. It's going to go on kind of blotchy, because when you touch down like that, it really grabs this ink very quickly, and it sets up and dries very quickly too. Okay, so you can't really blend this out. Now I'm trying to kind of taper it off a little bit as I'm tapping this down. After those first few initial taps, it gets very dry on here. So, and that's when I start moving it away from that larger clump right there. Hopefully you can see that right there. It's a little bit more kind of built up right there. And then using the drier one, I'll kind of come out here on the perimeter. But it's not like really finely tapered and blended out. So I don't think there's a way to do that either. So, if it's something that can't be done, why worry about it? I just worry about the things I have control over, as they say. All right. So that being said, kind of that's my application of it over here. It's a little bit thicker right in here. Once you get your images stamped over the top of it too, this really gets pushed back visually into the distance. So again, that's one of those things that you don't really need to worry about. Because I know how people get, with their coloring. Everything's about, like smooth blending these days, with using colored pencils or, alcohol markers and getting everything like completely smooth. Okay. I don't know. Smoothness is the aesthetic, I guess, these days. Me, I'm into textures, so I don't know. I've never used too many of the smoothing devices or whatnot, because if something gets a little bit textural, I try to kind of, I don't know, emphasize that type of thing, because textures were very important in artwork. So not everything. I get, if there's some areas that, we want to have a little bit smoother, yeah, but not for everything. Okay, so this is going to be another island back here, okay? So it's like these little clouds. Actually, that looks kind of cool in there. You can even just put some trees over the front of this, and it's, the field of like a sky filled with, I don't know, whatever your handmade clouds in there. If you want to too, I mean, you could put a template in here and have these real kind of hard, billowy shapes. That would be kind of cool too. Those ones are real super stylized types of clouds, which aren't wrong, I mean, they're pretty cool too. But when you do it this way, it's real free form like that. And I don't know, every scene you do comes out a little bit different. If you're doing 100 of these and you want them identical, maybe not so good. But when we're stamping out things like this, I like it very nice and varied. Okay, so here's the part where I'm not certain about what exactly I want from this piece. This is just kind of winging it here, but these are going to be some blocked out areas for a couple images, okay? Definitely this one, okay, which is going to go right here. And then I'm going to have another one right here. I wasn't quite sure what image I was going to be using there, but maybe it'll be this smaller one, like a little bit more in the distance. And I wanted these mountains back here. Maybe I'll have to go with the smaller one, like this, okay? But I want these mountains to be coming out of the clouds, so I'm going to, now that I'm looking at this, I'll probably have a couple of these like this. Maybe one of them will be going off the page, or we can go with this. We can go with the larger one. No, the larger one's too big. We'll go. Maybe I'll go down kind of low on this one, and then I'll have another one just kind of off the page. But I'll see how high these trees get right here. So we'll just, I don't know. We're just composing kind of on the fly here. So, okay, so if I want that mountain to be rising from the clouds, then I'm just kind of adding some cloud right there. And then the question is that, you know, do you want some of these clouds in the background? Some of this can be done after you stamp out your main imagery too, you know. You can kind of refine your mist and fog and blocking out a little bit afterwards. And if you're doing this for the first time and you're just not quite certain about it, just make it more of a, you know, have it. It's fine if it's kind of more random and less kind of, I don't know, kind of controlled in terms of your planning. And I'll show you how to bring it all together anyway. Okay, so that's what we have right here, okay? I might want to pull this over a little bit more, making it less kind of equally weighted on both sides. It'll be a little bit more maybe rule of thirds. I don't know, but we'll figure it out here. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now. I'll be adding more white pigment ink to come here, but it's really hard to get to show you guys what's going on sometimes. It's so glary. It's hard to take a photograph of these sometimes too. You know, people have this down like this and they're taking a photograph and they, you know, they might be able to see themselves in that reflection. So I always tell people just to hold your card and get it at the right angle, you know, to depict whatever. And this one, it's like whatever angle I'm holding at, you know, has different colors. So just get the right, you know, color when you're photographing these. If you're posting it on something like, you know, some online gallery or something like that. Hello, CM Hawkins. Okay, so I'm just going to use my Stays on Black here. There's a lot of different types of inks you can use on here, okay? Especially when you're stamping over the top of white Brilliance pigment ink, okay? I think just about anything. As I say that, I'm not certain about the oil-based pigment inks, but the oil-based pigment ink, when you're stamping it over white like that, you're not really stamping it directly on the vinyl, so, or the printable vinyl, so it might work, it might not. I'm kind of been removing a lot of the variables lately, just stamping with stays on, if there's any question about it. Because again, I'm running into people, and this is completely understandable. They're used to, you know, just every medium working on, you know, just your basic cardstocks, your matte, your semi-gloss, and your glossy, okay? If they use a certain medium, it usually works on there, okay? But there are some types of these unconventional stamping surfaces, your metallic cardstocks, your foils, the printable vinyls. Then there's vinyl sticker paper, which is not printable, okay? And there's little types of variations in there. There's vinyl sticker papers too that are cold laminates that are different from, you know, your vinyls and your printable vinyls too. So I get where, you know, they'll use something assuming it'll work and it doesn't, and then they get really frustrated. Someone left a comment with that and it's like, I've been trying and trying and trying. It's like, hey, all you need to do is just take a photo of what's going on and show me what's, you know, you're using. And I'll tell you, you know, in a You don't have to keep, forcing it. And I'll just tell you, what's going on. I don't know every type of brand of medium, but I can usually tell the type of it. And there's some types that just aren't compatible. I kind of liken it to cooking. Okay, I enjoy cooking, and there's certain types of things. Let's say, you can substitute. If you're making something like, chicken or so, you know what I mean, chicken or something like that. If you substitute like garlic salt for salt, no big deal or something like that. But if you're baking like cinnamon rolls, you know what I mean, you're not going to substitute the garlic salt with salt, I don't think you would do that, you know what I mean? Or I don't think that would work. Okay. But, yeah, there's certain types of things that, just, they play a factor with certain types of materials, so. It's not all the time, though. But there are definitely certain types of these kind of more boutique, surfaces that where what we're using has to be taken into consideration here. Okay, I'm going with the larger Mystic trees right on this side. I was going to go with the smaller Mystic Hills, but I thought, this will look good, I think, with this one right here. Okay, so see where I'm stamping it into the white right here, but the StazOn, it adhered pretty well just directly to the sticker paper. But that white kind of base down there definitely helps, okay? All right, so we're winging it here as far as the composition of this goes, so apologize for that. For those that are kind of expecting more of a, step-by-step, okay, this is what you do now, type of live stream here. This is the Stampscapes lab live stream. This is me playing. Okay, so right down here, I want to create some shadows down in here, but I can't really do that with too many different types of media if I don't coat this with something. Okay, so now that I see this up here, okay, I'm gonna add some more Brilliance ink underneath this so that I can adhere probably colored pencils on this one, okay? So you just add that down like this, okay? Let's see. As my granny, great German cook, got older, she made birthday cake with salt instead of sugar. Your granny, her taste changed. She liked more of a savory type of cake than a sweet one. But that's the type of thing, though. Some go pretty extreme, and they kind of substitute maybe visually similar things in making their cards. Like if I use something, I'm gonna try to be more whatever complete, in terms of my description of what I'm doing here, and I'll talk about compatibility in these videos. Sometimes people don't watch any of the videos and they come across something for the first time, and where I've done, I don't know, 20, 30 videos of a similar type where I've mentioned things like in the past, but I stopped saying that because I figured, all right, a lot of people, that, and you're getting tired of hearing me blab, but I really should explain everything as I go. But okay, so what I'm getting at right here is like a StazOn right here. It's it's a solvent ink, and it's more of a permanent style of ink, and I mean, most of you know that, okay? But, you know, if you're watching this channel, you're probably Standbers, but, um, you know, someone substituted a dye-based ink, like a Memories, which you can do with certain types of printable vinyls. You know, you stamp on there with, you know, your dye-based inks, and they're water-based, so it adheres to it. But you know, there's certain types of dye-based inks that are also thicker than others. So in terms of the viscosity, it's much thicker, and it probably has like a slower drying time on there. Okay. So that, you know, stuff like that has to be taken into consideration. There might have been some other techniques that were utilized before doing, I don't know, whatever the next step is, and it didn't come out quite as they were expecting. But when it came to the two types of inks, you know, from a solvent ink to a thick dye-based ink, we're almost talking about, I don't know if it's the opposite, if they're the opposite from one another in terms of the characteristics of them, in terms of what's available in stamping. But it's pretty close to it. You know, maybe an oil-based pigment would be more of the opposite of this one. You know, something really thick, a completely different drying time factor. Um, but that's an instance just where, yeah, it just it didn't work for them. I don't know if I don't know what it was that they were doing. I just, you know, they mentioned that and they said, hey, I should have, you know, read in the description, you know, what you used. But that, you know, like I said, there's sometimes, you know, when other things can be used and it'll be fine. Not in the case of usually substituting you know, salt for sugar, though. The question is did you eat it out of you know, being polite? Okay, let's add in some mountains in the background here. I almost need something a little bit lower in here, maybe. Let me see here. I want to keep this kind of simple though. All right, let me go with these mountains right here. Okay, it stays on it. Re-ink. We don't have like forever to, you know, to have that sit around. I'm gonna mop off the bottom of this a little bit so it stamps out a little bit lighter. With StazOn, I never know if I'm, you know, taking too long to stamp it out as it dries so fast. Speaking of that, when I first started using StazOn a little bit more, someone's like mentioned in the comments, yeah, I was, you know, kind of cringing when you didn't replace your lid right away. So I'm learning a little bit, so I don't have to re-ink, you know, twice in one, you know, for one card, because, you know, the StazOn ink completely dried out. Okay, now see where I'm going over here, and I'm going to be going into those trees. It's going to represent something more distant than trees, so I'm wiping it off right there just so it stamps out lighter in that tree area, hopefully. I don't know, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, so see, I can still see the silhouette of that tree, you know, fairly decently. And this is the smaller Mystic Mountains. And I'll put another one over here, I think. All right, so I am stamping this into some of those areas that I didn't cover with, that I didn't white out. So I might need to bring in some more white pigment ink into those mountains again. Okay, just if I want to add some color to them. So figuring it out as I go here. Okay, I wanted to go a little bit darker over there just to kind of frame it off a little bit more. Okay, so let me see here. It's almost kind of hard for me to tell sometimes where I added the white, so I have to kind of put this at an angle so I can see where my applications of that white are. And, you know, if I want to add some more in there. I'm going to want to add some more in there after I do my coloring, though. Okay, so this is going to represent some clouds in the distance there. So now I have my kind of layout established in here. All right. And let's go with some more of that Brilliance ink. Okay. No salt cake. Oh, that's sad. I think there was something. I forgot what it was. I think my mom made some kind of. Oh, I know what it was. This is like back in the 70s, okay? And we were making cookie. We were like baking cookies, but they were for the purpose of making ornaments out of them. And I think she said, and I think the thing to do was you substitute salt for the sugar. Say, so it's basically a cookie dough, except it's more salty. And then we decorated, and then we baked them, and I think you painted them with like a polyurethane or something like that, you know? I'm not quite sure what the purpose of, of the salt was, but that was the thing to do with those ones. Not that you can make you're gonna cut slices out of your cake and make those like ornaments, but that reminded me of that. I think we used those ornaments for quite a few years. It's one of those things, one of those projects for kids. Does anyone remember saving popsicle sticks? Good times back in the 70s, late 60s or the 70s, you're always saving the popsicle sticks because you're going to need them for some sort of crafting project, down the line. All right, so I'm adding more clouds in here, but I don't want to block off everything completely. It's still pretty powerful of a, reflection in here, kind of dominating the scene, which is going to happen with holographic sticker paper. It's super dynamic and it's reflective and everything like that, but I want it more as like a, not a complimentary thing. It's supposed to be dominant like that, but I don't want it to be so dominant that we can't see anything in there, okay? All right, so I'm going to add more down here, okay? Hello, Bonnie. You're not too late. Pretty basic here. What do we, I just used 3 stamps on this. A lot of blocking out with the white pigment ink. And then after I get my, bearings on where the imagery is located, just going back in and kind of refining this. And when I say refining, I don't have like really definitive areas that I'm thinking, okay, I need to block this off right here. I need to add more. I don't know, I'm kind of winging it here a little bit. Like, see up here, that color coming through that mountain right there looks pretty good, but this one's blocked off pretty good, these two. So I want to kind of oscillate a little bit, where I have the vinyl, the holographic aspect of it showing through, there's no use using it if we're going to block it all out. So we want, we definitely want it in there, but I'm thinking there's too much of it down here in the water. So I'm just adding it, and you can do it too, where you add a little bit of this down. You don't have to block it off to complete opacity like I have it in here. So, I'm just kind of, it's a little trial and error here. If there is any error, I don't know. Now, I was thinking about using the cloud cumulus back here, but I don't know if I need to at this point in time. Maybe that would be too much texture. I think this white is looking okay as is. Okay, Candy, you're deciding how to use those trees. Use them in all kinds of different ways, You can use them I don't know. It's just rocks and trees. So here's the one thing though on those trees. They're kind of they represent pine trees, but don't lock them in as that. You know, you can also use them as a deciduous type of tree. So you can. I've used them with some different colors, like they're like blooming. I don't know, cherry trees or something like that. I just got a big blob right there. So yeah, so think about that, or have it, you know, both deciduous and pine in there by using some, if you have some paint pens, um, using them in there like that. Salt cookies, yes. Oh, is that it right there, Ginger? The salt preserved them, yeah, because we used them like year after year. So got it. I wonder if we still have some of those. You know, my mom got rid of a lot of those types of things. She sent down a big box of orange because she just puts up a, you know, like a 1 foot tree now, you know, these days. Okay. That's why I like these live streams. There's someone always knows, you know what I mean, exactly, you know, what you're talking about, or you know, or the name for something. Look at that. Look, okay, see, this is looking really nice right now. See that kind of that lighting that's in the clouds right there. So it's like bending light. It's almost okay. So this was a complete accident right here, and it's how the light is hitting this, you know. But see, I didn't do any of that whiting out up here, but it looks like the light is kind of coming through here now and shining into the mist and clouds in here. Now, if I do it, you know, like something like this, it's not going to be in there anymore. But you know, I think that looks kind of cool like that. So this is what I'm talking about. You know, my area down here is completely blotchy and uneven. The applications are like the opposite of precise. All right, there's big blotches of white pigment ink where I've applied it really thick. But again, you know, I've come to learn that you don't really need to worry about that because it all seems to, you know, look fine in some ways. And then we can come in here with, you know, some other foreground in here if there's anything too like really, really, you know, bad looking in terms of our application of this. Like I said, the Brilliance inks really grab the this, you know, I just laid down a ton of that Brilliance ink and it's completely dry. Okay. All right, so let's go in here with some different tones. And look at this pencil right here. Purple. That used to be my favorite color. That looks like more like a magenta-ish purple, though. That didn't get too much usage over the years, I guess. And here's a black right here. But let's color some of these rocks in here. So I'm going to kind of keep it a little bit more. I mean, there's different colors here, but I'm going to color them with a certain tinge. I'm not going to go in with too much different color, especially when I'm working on something that's already super dynamic in color. Sometimes I want to keep our color scheme that we apply in here a little bit more minimal, you know? Um, like I said, this is already like super dynamic as is, so yeah. So that being said, I'm wondering if I should let me just go with the black colored pencil to start off with, and we'll see how it goes. If we want to add more color and make it richer, then I'll do that. Okay, so with the mystic imagery, I tend to get, with other types of coloring that I'm doing, like if these trees were like in a lakeside scene with you know, a moon or something like that coming in with the lighting coming in, I'd usually go darker down at the base and lighter up top, okay? Because the light is hitting the, you know, the tops of these areas. But with this type of, you know, these types of mountains in the background with all this cloudy kind of structuring underneath, I usually go dark to light like that. So it's like the opposite of kind of everything, you know, most of my usage of the stamps and my depiction of light in scenes. But as I'm coming to, I don't know, think, not realize, but think about these I almost think this is easier in terms of the depiction of light. It's just, to have things kind of bottom lit. All right, so see that how that's going right there? That's just your black on there. I think most of it is applying to the white of the Brilliance ink, but I don't know, it's applying on some of these areas where I didn't know if I could. Let me see something here. Okay, there must be a little bit of white pigmenting back there. I thought that it was completely bare, but now when I'm going like with this black on that vinyl, I guess it is applying a little bit, but I guess you just need like a really small amount for this pencil to be able to grab it and to apply. Yeah, okay. I wasn't quite sure if I can get anything with this on this smooth paper like that, but I guess you can, so. All right, so this, maybe I'll keep some of the top lighting on some of these rocks, but I'll add a lot more tone up top here, and then I'll just transition, because I'm going to put like some mist and haze right down here afterwards. Okay. All right, it's over here. Yeah, I'm going to want to add in some color here. I don't want to go just straight with the pencil on here. I think it looks good for the watercolory looking pieces just on white, to have grayscale, but I think this one's really going to benefit from some color, or at least a little tinge of some, some additional tone. All right, so the Brilliance ink isn't going to provide like a super, accepting surface of multiple layers of colored pencil, but it grabs, the thinner layers, I don't know, 2 or 3 layers without any problem at all. And I'm saying this to the colored pencil artists out there, who are, might be adding, multiple cross-hatching layers and things like that and building up their color schemes and color ranges. This, at some point in time, is going to kind of achieve kind of a super saturation, where it's like you're trying to apply wax on top of wax. Sometimes it just doesn't transfer over there. But a few layers of it, no problem. Let's see. Bugs, now that you mentioned that, maybe you're right. Maybe we didn't bake them. This is like, I don't know, I was like 5. But I remember them because we used them for years, on the tree. So, I don't know. I probably used, it was like, it's the same ornaments that are going up year after year usually, as long as they don't break. So I wouldn't be surprised if, we were using those, those cookies, until I don't know, through high school. But yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe we didn't bake them. And yeah, Ginger, when we had to make our own craft supplies. We used to go to this one store, and I lived in a small town. Okay, there's one hobby store, one everything. Okay, the hobby store. I don't know. There would be like those foam balls or something like that you'd make. Different foam bases. I remember like things like pipe cleaners in the aisle, yarns. The latest whatever. When macrame became popular, we'd go into there and getting like jute. All right. so here's some blues in here. Okay, I don't know if you can even see what I'm doing. I guess you can a little bit. Okay, right in there. And here's these other two blues right here. Okay, so as I'm applying this, just as is, okay, my coloring here, I don't really like it. It should be said. But for me, I just know that I'm going to go over it with some additional pigment ink right over the top of it. So, my application, my kind of feeble application of it here, is not really going to matter too much because I'm going to be muting my, kind of, I don't know, whatever delivery application of that media. Okay, it smooths it all out. And when I say I'm smooth, I'm not talking about maybe that's it. It subdues the actual look of the application. So I don't know. You don't have to go over it, but if it's like mine here and it's like, I'm not sure, that looks a little rough. You don't even need to worry about it. This goes for all of my things, though. Anytime I'm doing stuff with the paint pens or anything like that, it's just. I'm saying this because I know some people get kind of shocked. It's like, oh my God, I'm not liking the way this is going here. You know what I mean? But it's just like, it's one of those layers quite often it's a sub layer for other types of things that are going to go over the top of it. So it doesn't need to look like an end result, where we're pleased like with it every step of the way. Okay. All right. So this is a light blue here, and I'm going to come down more with it. This is the lightest one that I'm going to be using, so I'm going to come down into my cloudy area a little bit more. But I'm just using a really light touch with it to get that kind of transitioning dark to light like this. Come up into your darker areas too, so that you get a little bit of layering in that darkness with the lightest of colors too. So it just, I don't know, I think it kind of blends those areas together a little bit more and kind of creates a nicer transition. Okay. Let's see. And the foam, okay, you saved those foam containers that the McDonald's burgers came in, huh? I I don't remember the foam container. That was like maybe when they first started foaming them up. Didn't they always come in just like a paper wrap? So maybe that was one of the early. I don't know. Maybe that was one of the bigger sandwiches than like the quarter pounders and Big Macs or something like that. Let's see. Candy made salt pretzels for decorations. Oh, that was a good idea. Yeah, that sounds really familiar. I wonder if we did one of those, like with that salt cookie dough. That sounds really familiar. Like we made one of those. I think this is bringing back some memories now. I think we might have done that too. But I think the pretzel one. I don't know. For some reason, I'm remembering that might have been one of those that broke uh, that broke on us. Before the flat ones did. Yeah, see, those types of things. We should have like a retro project challenge. Salt cookie dough projects, and then like a popsicle. Who has? I guess you can buy popsicle sticks now, though. Back then, you had to. I don't know if they said like blank popsicle sticks. I don't know. Everyone was always saving them though. It was like that type of thing too, and I don't know. I seem to recall doing like toothpick types of things too. Toothpicks were used a lot. It seemed. Someone's just logging on thinking, what the heck are they talking about? Toothpicks. Now, where did you use the toothpick in, this scene right here? Okay, so I'm adding in the shadows right now. I wasn't quite sure what color to do the shadows, and I'm just going to go initially with this darker blue. And then there's a lot of white pigment ink underneath these, okay? So I think I should be able to apply a decent amount. But again, this is going to get covered up a lot with some additional white pigment ink, okay? So we'll be able to see the shadow. So it's not like you're just, hey, if you're just going to cover it up, why add that down there? You're going to be able to see the shadow through, a veil of, kind of mist down here, okay? But I'm not worried about, like a really smooth application of this, okay? I'm going to come out here a little bit and extend that kind of shadow out this way, okay? Your cat was going like, it was like one of those animals out in nature that are going for, it's like salt is such a valued mineral out there in nature. There's this video of these goats climbing up this gigantic dam. I've forgotten what country, but their little hoofs are just, they're well adapted, like scaling, verticals with very little footholds, but they're going up to get like the salt out of, whatever that dam was made out of. So we got cats, scaling Christmas trees to get those salt cookies. Maybe you should make a product out of that one, like around Christmas time you have these cat, hangable ornament cat treats. Okay, so this is how I'm doing this. These shadows down here, they're kind of going like this. It's starting to anchor it. Now that's too purpley, but that's just my first coat on there. So I'll add in some black right here. Hello, Debbie. I jumped on early. I wasn't. I don't know. I'll see how this one goes. I was thinking about coming on and doing another live stream later, but I wanted to get to some of this printable vinyl here. This is like I don't know, it's like a Slimline kind of piece of vinyl, 8.5 by 3.5, and I'm using this in a Copictopia workshop, summer retreat workshop tomorrow, and I thought this is kind of a nice size right here. I used it when I was in a live stream for kind of doing some teacher training, because I'm going to be teaching that class remotely, so I needed some people to be able to walk around in there and help out. So the other instructors for that retreat are going to help me out with that. Anyways, what I'm getting at was I had just a piece of scrap paper from, I don't know, something, and I was just showing them, different ways to use it, and they really like that. So one of the people that are helping out for my class is the retreat coordinator, who is also the one probably teaching most of the classes. But I'm going to add in that kind of bookmarky size into the class material packs. I thought, oh, okay, that's always kind of fun. Everything doesn't always have to be like the quarter page, type of thing. Some of my favorite pieces by people on Facebook have been there's something really uneven underneath this. I don't know what it was. It's like sand or something. But some of the pieces that I really like are things like bookmarks. And I don't know if it's people are cutting down bookmarks or if they were just scraps or something like that they utilize, but I really like that kind of elongated format. It's like, almost, thinner than, your whatever Slimline format when it's that type of ratio. But I mean, something like this, if I was doing it in a vertical format, a portrait or whatever, that could be easily, look how bright that is. That could easily be a bookmark. Okay, so anyways, this shadow is really anchoring things down, I think. I think we can kind of see it coming together a little bit more now. Look at this area down here where there's these kind of vertical types of things like that. That would be kind of cool if I did, I don't know. If I did kind of downward strokes like this with the colored pencil, it might contrast against this, or I'm not sure if that would be good or not. In this case, Okay, so here's some of that purple right here. Okay, this purple right here, I don't know if it's just because this pencil's like super sharp, but it seems to be transferring on here really easy. I have a feeling this purple one is a little bit softer than some of these other colors. Not all these colors are like the same, whatever, relative hardness. So this one's really applying really easy. Hopefully you can see that kind of, that purplish tinge in there. I think that looks pretty good. Actually, I think I might like this purplish blue tinge more than just the blue. It seems like this color in here is harmonizing with the natural, I don't know. Is there a base color for this holographic cardstock? It has every color, but when you go like this, when there's no light on there, it's mostly like that purplish tinge like that, okay? So I think this color right here harmonizes with it a little bit more. So let's get some of this up into these mountains here. It looks like it relates more. I guess that's the thing. It looks like it relates a little bit more to the vinyl. Okay. Hello, Jeffrey. And let's see. Hello, Diana. Bonnie matches. We made a lot of things with the wood one. Burnt the ends. Now, what did you make with those? Did you make a... I'm trying to think of those. That sounds really familiar, too. Did you make like little like structures, like cabins or something with those, or figures? That seems kind of familiar to me, but I'm trying to remember. We always loved those wooden matchsticks, though, as kids. Just the fact that you can strike it on anything, like, the sidewalk. My brother taught me how to, I don't know, he learned from the cousin or something like that, how you wrap the head with foil or something like that, and then you light the tip, and it created these little rockets sometimes. Sometimes it just went up in flames, but if you left enough of a little, you have to tighten it up enough and then have enough of a kind of loose at the base where it would like shoot off. And then we'd use paper clips as our like launching pads. Yeah. Yeah. See, like like Stampscapes live, where we're learning, the cutting edge and rubber stamping things, but we can also, you never know if we're going back, 50 years. Okay, let me carry this out a little bit more. I really like that look right there. And let's go for some additional imagery in here in terms of maybe foreground. I'm trying to think if I should do this right now. Sometimes you want to add in a little bit of that misty kind of mysterious fog in here first, and then you stamp your foreground on top of it, so those are nice and crisp against that atmospheric, mist or whatever. But sometimes you want to stamp, some foreground first so that you can cover some of it with that mist so that it's kind of affecting the foreground too. I mean, you can add some foreground like that, add in your white, and then put some more on top of it where that one is crisp too. So there's all kinds of things you can do. All right, so I want a little fishing boat in here. And we have a lot of colored pencil in here. This is definitely the time when I'd recommend a StazOn. The other imagery, like I said, I think we could have used, if we wanted to, like a dye-based ink for that. Okay, I'm just making sure that I have this nice and level. Okay. And let's do that additional touch. Oh, okay, so I'm going to color this into, there's this little kind of enclosed area on that little boat. I'm going to color that in. Okay. Just to kind of make it relate to everything else in here that's toned. All right, so we have that like that. Let me add a little bit more shadow down underneath. Here, I'll do this to it. I'll do that same treatment that I did with the trees here, the mystic trees, and just carry that out like that. I think that looks like it's sitting in the water a little bit better. Here, I'm liking this purple here. Let me add a little bit more of this here. Purple was definitely my favorite color as a kid too. There was zero question about it, if anyone asked. Be a little bit more gutsy here. As I'm doing this, I'm getting I'm getting more comfortable with the application of really thick, solid applications of color here. So let's really set these two areas into the scene more with like a stronger shadow here. All right, there we go. Okay, this is I think this is starting to kind of take shape more now, huh? You can see the forms and things like that. Everything's kind of coming out of the background a little bit more, where everything, initially before you start kind of modeling things, everything's kind of getting swallowed up by the vinyl. Okay, it's hard. Sometimes it's even hard to see your imagery. But then you kind of slowly start, adding tone and, doing your shading on things, and it kind of starts coming out of the background and playing more of a role, in the actual scene as opposed to getting gobbled up, by, colored reflective light, I guess. All right, so there we go right there. They know when you're busy, Beth, you know. All right, a little bit of a stronger violet down here. All right. I like that little warm light that's kind of creeping through there. For I don't know why it's hitting it like in that. Look at that. That's kind of weird. I put my hand in shadow here, which is blocking off the light. And why does that get lighter like that? Oh, it's turning it to red from like a blue. Okay. Well, I guess that is darker. That's kind of weird, huh? Look at this. Oh my God, that like changes the I guess I have so much light in my studio here. It's just kind of maybe it might not be representative of what we'll see it under, regular lighting conditions. But even so, I think every lighting condition in here looks pretty cool so far. So, okay, so what, I'm just hoping I don't ruin it with, some additional white pigment ink. I'm just joking. That's what everyone kind of worries about. Like, oh my God, should I stop here? Or wherever they're at. Yeah, and that's valid. I mean, what you can do, what I'm doing though, when I do stuff, I'm not like doing like gigantic, bold, like super bold strokes. Okay, everything kind of happens just kind of slowly, so you can kind of make you can assess as you go along. Okay, because like I'm just going to be adding like a thin layer of white pigment ink into these areas. Okay, so I'm going to be going over the top of my colored pencil application, my shading application, as well as my imagery that has been stamped in here too. So, but you're just doing it just with a really light application of this, okay? And I mean, if you put it like in a couple little areas, you can kind of, take a look at it and see if you like it or not. If you don't like it, then, don't put it over the rest of anything. You can just leave things as is. Okay, now I'm going to create a little bit of separation between this mountain and this mountain. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of dabbing over like that. But see, that got lighter right there. So that pushed that mountain, which is higher up, which usually means something that's farther back in the distance. It created that little separation between there. So I think little tweaks like that look, pretty good. And they're fun to do. It's like you can do like little thing like that, and it doesn't change things drastically, but it's just like a little minor tweak. Okay, it's going over here, putting some. It's going over some of those tree limbs too, but putting some on the back of that mountain right there, and by doing that, by dulling not dulling. I don't know. I guess it's dulling too, but kind of adding some of this on that mountain. It's kind of pushing that back, and it's not so integrated with this foreground tree or closer tree. And I need to be careful about this because I want that kind of that illuminated area like that too. So I don't want to block it out too much. But that's where just kind of going on with, kind of a light application like this, comes in handy for us. A lot of crosses. Oh, got it. Yeah. That reminds me. We were making a lot of God's eyes back then. That's what it reminds me of. Not out of matches, but out of like the toothpicks and like yarn. I don't know. Does anyone know what I'm talking about when I say God's eye? That yarn and stick project. Yeah. I don't know when the last one of those was made. I haven't seen one of those in years though, but everyone was making those for a while. Okay, so I'm going in here now and adding that to the far. I like that warm light in there. That looks like morning, like sunrise or something like that now, huh? Okay, going in here, and I'm going to oscillate it a little bit. I'll put some right here and some over here. I'm not really going to put that over the whole span, I don't think. Now, if I really didn't like anything that was going on down here, I would probably just fog that whole thing out, and then I would put like a foreground image right here, okay? You know? That's what I mean when every time I'm doing these videos, I'm mentioning stuff like that. You know, just to stick with it. You know, if your colored pencil work is like really bad or whatever, you know, it's going on kind of funky. Don't worry about it. Just say, hey, you know, I'm gonna add, you know, whatever right over the top of it. It's not really going to be a problem. Hello, Beatrice. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Candy. Well, it is glossy, but it's yeah, the printable vinyl sticker paper though. It's not the holographic cardstock. Okay. All right, let's add some over here. In using these holographics like this, I mean, I used, you know, a few colors right here, but it's, and there's, you know, the holographics are going to have their limitations. But if you want to add in something into your repertoire where you're going to have this kind of just inherent, you know, pretty dynamic color scheme that also moves, you know, it kind of brings motion into a scene. The different types of holographics are a pretty good way to go. But again, just, you know, take the time to know what types of inks work with those particular types of, you know, surfaces. And it's not like, you know, like there's only like one combination that works with it or something like that, okay? But just, you know, get really familiar with the types of inks that, and it could even be brand, you know, the brand might, you know, be a factor at times on these types of surfaces. But for me, the printable vinyls, I don't know, it works pretty well with, you know, just about any type of water-based medium that I've tried on it so far. At least the water-based media that I'm working with. There, like I said, there's other types of inks out there and brands where I'm not quite sure. And also, you know, maybe it has to do with some of the, how much of the brilliance ink you lay down on there. If I laid down less, maybe I wouldn't be able to add so much colored pencil work, you know, because this is kind of providing me, you know, a foundation on which to build the colored pencils. So if you add more of this, you have more of a foundation to build upon, to layer upon, I guess. Okay, so I'm adding this right around my little fishing boat, which is really small, so I'm being careful not just to tone the whole thing out, but I do want a little bit of that type of atmosphere that's going on throughout here. But see, I don't know, can you see the difference, you know, unless you just joined in here, but can you see the difference between these areas now with the additional white pigment ink? Let's see if I can get a real cool kind of reflection. That looks really cool like that, huh? See, there's different light in here. And, you know, which is always going to change. Look at my finger down here as I move along and I flatten that out. Just how that changes. So someone getting your card too, you know, they're holding it with their hands and it's almost like, you know, their fingers, you know, it's almost interactive. It's a mood scene. As opposed to mood ring, for the I didn't get it. All right, so let's add in a little bit of extra foreground here. Let me go with the bamboo branch. Diana used to make them when she was little. That's cool. I didn't know this paper took the colored pencil. Beatrice, it doesn't take the colored pencils. The Brilliance ink on top of the printable vinyl, took the colored pencil. Okay, but that's a good observation there. Oh, yeah. CM took care of that for me. Thanks, CM. Bonnie, I am 21. Let's see. I was born in 67, so I don't know. What's the math on that? I was telling someone I had to do the math, to figure out how old I was because I kind of forgot. I was telling someone recently, and this friend of mine who had his birthday, he's 1 year older than me. I said, hey, I had to, for the past few years, I've had to kind of, I don't know. Maybe it's been the last decade when someone asks me how old I am, I have to kind of do the math. And he goes, oh, that's sad. As my friend used to say, that was in the same grade as I am. He said, yeah, we were born in the year of love, 1967. All right, so let's add in some foreground here. And this is the bamboo branch. Okay, and I'm doing it in the StazOn. Okay, the StazOn I know is going to print over the top of, the waxy application of the colored pencil. Now, when you're doing this on this type of vinyl sticker paper, just kind of peel it off kind of slowly like that. You gotta have to peel it, you know what I mean? Because it really sticks. That StazOn really sticks to it. Especially if you're going StazOn directly on top of this printable vinyl, which is an emulsion coating on here, okay? Oh, Beatrice is 53 tomorrow. Happy birthday. Happy early birthday. Everyone send a birthday card to Beatrice. And one of the things I was saying is you can do these little special things on someone's birthday. So everyone put exactly 50, make her night scenes, and then put exactly 53 stars in her sky. But those are the types of things you do, I mean, I was making a card for a 10-year-old. I think it's been a couple years at this point in time. Okay, so I was making these light beams, and I made 10 light beams. You know what I mean? But something like that, they're never gonna know. So I told Mom. I said, hey, I made 10 light beams there. For in theme. But those are the fun little things you can do in your cards. Or you can make a field of stars, but maybe for how old someone is, if they're younger. I don't want to put 53 clear crystals in the sky, but if someone's like, whatever, and you can put, some clear crystals or something like that into your card. And I mentioned this before, you can do like a field of stars or something like that and put someone's initials, maybe where it's not super obvious, but kind of obvious, if you say, hey, do you see the B and the A in the sky, in little stars or something like that, make it a Beatrice, or just a B, you know what I mean? Make a B constellation up in your sky. I think, stuff like that's kind of cool to do. So it kind of adds these layers of, I don't know, personalization, for the recipient. That's kind of cool. Okay, so those are the foreground down there. It kind of anchored everything down a little bit more. And like I was saying, you know what I mean? So if you just kind of logged on, you didn't see how kind of blotchy my cotton ball application of that white was. And it's because when you get through, you stamp over the top, almost just stamping over the top of it took care of it all. But then we add in some colors into it. We add in some additional pigment ink and, kind of that initial kind of application of white directly onto the paper. Here we're applying it on the paper, yeah, but we're applying it over the top of colored pencils and imagery. But, it's going to look really, really unless you have more control of it than I do. But mine looks really blotchy and it's funky. Things are not like really smooth. But again, I don't think it really matters in this type of application, or I don't know, most of the types of applications that I do, because I just I layer things over the top of things. So I'm not worried about how things are looking, or I should say I barely, worry about how things are looking at step, 2 or something like that. Okay. So if you're ever working on your pieces, just kind of stick with them, and, if it doesn't look like it's coming out or something like that, just stay with it, for a few more steps, there's, we're stampers. We have a lot of different media that we can apply over the top of our scenes. And just keep building it out. You can layer things. You can cover things. I'm just adding a little bit of tone to these trees here. A little bit of brown in there. Let's see, let me go with a little bit of that purple into them too, just for a little bit of color continuity here. All right. Now what I've done is I've kind of, I don't know, I've colored my trunk. Okay, you're not gonna be able to see this problem. Well, you might be able to see a little bit, but the trees over here on the right, I've kind of colored them a little bit more. Now, if it's a really thin tree, I didn't bother doing this, but like that thicker trunk right there, I kind of colored it more on the right side of it, just so that it looks like the lighting is coming from this center area. And these trees over here, I colored on the left side of the trunk, so it looks like more like center lighting in here. I don't know why I forgot. I forgot about that main tree right there. Or what you do, if it's a really thin tree, what you do is you color it low and then you color it high or something like that, or you color it in the middle. Just don't color the whole thing, just so it kind of oscillates the lighting on that trunk a little bit, because they're, the canopy of foliage above is, casting shadows on it. So it just makes it a little bit more, it just gives it a little bit more variation. Okay. Okay. Let me see. Look at that lighting right there, how it changes. That's still one of my favorite ones right there, where that warm light is coming through. Let me see here. There was another kind of angle that looked really cool. I don't remember what it was. It was kind of this misty green down here. But anyways, that's the nature of this holographic here. It's really fun to kind of just play around with and see what type of lighting is on there. Okay, so white paint pen. All right. And I don't use this too much usually on these scenes. Not as much as I do with like a cardstock or something like that, but it can add a nice element of dimension into your scenes. So I'm just adding a little bit of highlights on some of these rocks down here. I think just in general, I don't use as much of this in here. I don't know, that looks a lot better though, doesn't it? With those highlights. It's just because, this paper is just so dynamic anyway. If I'm doing this on a white piece of cardstock that, it's a twilight scene or whatever, a nighttime scene, the white little highlights really stand out, okay? But when you have this, the rest of the card that's just like absolutely reflective in metallic coloring like that, these types of things, are, they don't stand out quite as much. So, yeah, so I don't really bother quite as much on something like this. Okay, I'm starting to get some of that into my pen here. It's clogging it up a little bit. Some of the colored pencil is going in here because this is a plastic tip that has a hole like that. So if you're going like this and adding it, it's scraping up some of that wax into that tip right there. So you got to get it flowing a lot more. You got to get that wax out of there. Yeah. Well, you could have always asked, Candy, Someone was asking me, they're asking me if I want to, if I can teach at the, I don't know if this is a secret or not, but they're asking me if I want to teach at this one stamp retreat. Not the one that's going on tomorrow, but there's this one next year. And she goes, hey, Kevin, do you remember the 2001, stamp retreat where you taught? And they were asking me, hey, do you want to, come back and teach again in 2024. I was thinking, man, it has been over 2 decades since that retreat out there. Okay, so retreats are always fun. I don't know if anyone's ever been to like a crafting retreat, scrapbooking, or stamping at all. But those were always my favorite types of stamping events. They're nice and relaxed, and people are usually staying in the location, so it's not you don't have to travel anywhere. And for me, when I was teaching classes, I don't have to teach a class and you spend like an hour or 2 hours setting up your class area, and then after each class you got to take down, right, if you're going on to the next store or something like that. But at a retreat you can just leave everything out, so it was always just so relaxed and everything like that. And the participants were usually really relaxed, and everyone's like having a great time. So it was always pretty cool. So I'm really considering that in-person retreat again. I didn't do too many of those where I'm actually teaching. I used to go to scenic stamping retreats where we're, just a bunch of scenic stampers are getting together and stamping. No one's teaching, like an official class, but, inevitably someone's like, oh, the new Copic marker, airbrush, device is out, and whoever Debbie's using it right now. So we'd all kind of hover around and see these new types of devices or mediums or something like that, and kind of learn how those were used, and what kind of compressor in that case they were using, and stuff like that. So those ones are always cool. And you get some people, staying up in the whatever the demo or crafting room. It's like someone, some people were up like like until like 3 or 4 stamping or something like that. And I'm usually a night owl, but it was always like Eastern Standard Time, so I had to get some sleep. But those are so much fun. But I did one in Napa Valley. And that other one, they called it the Yosemite Escape. It wasn't like in Yosemite, but it's close to there. Okay, so anyways, I'm blabbing away here. So I added in more white than I usually do, but see it up here in those mountains, kind of reflecting some of that light. Maybe I put too much of it, but yeah, actually that looks okay. When I hold it at certain angles and it's really kind of dark on the paper, it kind of stands out. Look at that right up here. When I hold it like that, those mountains aren't integrated at all, but under this type of lighting like that, they kind of integrate a little bit more with the rest of the scene. 1970. You're young, Beatrice. This- In my sixth grade class, we found out just a couple of guys that sat around me. One was a good friend, but it's like, hey, when's your birthday? And it was like one day, and then we found out that we all had like birthdays, like 3 days in a row, uh, and so the two of us that were a little bit, before the third guy, we would always say, "Oh no, you can't get in on this. You're too young." All right, so adding in a little bit more pigment ink now. I think when you add in the pigment ink on these, the white pigment ink over the top of the image, it's kind of, you get it. What you see is what you get. I don't think it changes too much. If I'm doing this on cardstocks or something like that, when the white pigment ink dries, it dries much more see-through. I'm wondering if that's going on with this right now. I'm not sure. Because the white pigment ink on this type of cardstock, it stays much more on the surface. It's not getting absorbed at all into, the pulp of the paper or something like that, okay? So I don't have to tweak it quite as much as the other my other types of applications on other surfaces. So let's see. All right, so going across those trees a little bit right in there. See that? So that's what that looks like. It would be perfect for a quote stamp, but I really didn't leave room for a quote stamp in here, and I don't want to put it down here. That would be really distracting. And right in here, it'd be too distracting. So if I put, a quote anywhere, if I matted this off onto a card or something like that, I could leave a little bit of space down here where you could put a quote stamp down here, like it's like in a frame or something like that, with a little placard down here, showing the title or something like that. But you can put a little word stamp or something like that of down in that area. Okay, so I think that looks pretty decent. Okay, let's see here. Let's put a couple little sparkly light reflections down here with a couple little dots of paint. And I'll do that right in here as well. It creates a little bit of shimmer, maybe, in here, like that. And can you guys see that right in here, and that, like, little bit in that background? It's not, in most lighting, you won't be able to see it too much. If I go like that, you can see it a lot more. This way. Yeah. Okay, look at that. You can see my white pigment ink applications right here pretty good. And anywhere where it looks kind of more, I don't know, whatever color that is, bluish tone, that's where the majority of the holographic is showing through. Of course, it's showing through in a lot more areas, because my application of that white isn't quite so built up and opaque. I guess right over here, that's colored pencil though. Okay, but it's a slightly different tinge than that kind of, I don't know, violety blue or something like that. And you can see that little violety blue up here in the mountains. Unless, is that colored pencil? Oh, that's colored pencil. See, I matched it so well on purpose. I'm joking, folks. A lot of that, you just, it's hard to tell, because there's this paper, this surface has so many different kind of personalities to it, just depending on what light is showing on there. So I don't know, it kind of makes it fun like that. It's some angles, it almost looks like, it could be twilight or like that. See that up in the sky area right there above the mountains? That almost looks like northern lights up there. Okay. So, I mean, someone getting this card from you, who knows, they might see it. If they haven't seen holographics before or seen stamped on holographics before, they might think, oh, hey, it's pretty cool. This is like a sunrise over something like that. But then, they're walking down the hall, they got your card up on display, and there's not so much light in there, and they might see, oh, it's like a nighttime scene or something like that, or with some northern lights going on up there. So it just has a lot of different personalities to it, just depending on what light's reflecting off of it or the angle. However, the way they do this type of paper, I think I don't know, the end result is pretty cool. And it's kind of pretty cool to play around with. You have to kind of manipulate it though, otherwise everything gets swallowed up in kind of dynamic, reflective, colored light, right? Metallic light at that. So, yeah, it gets pretty nuts. But let's see here. Yeah, more stamps since I last made a purchase. May need to make another purchase. Uh, you can never have too many Stampscape stamps, as they say. The more you have, the greater overall life luck people have too, and contentment. I've heard. I rarely, except early mornings, get missed. Yeah, early mornings. Yeah. Look up. What is that area in? Is it China or Vietnam? I can't remember how long or okay. I don't even want to try to pronounce those places, but look at some of those, or just look up Chinese ink paintings. Okay, and you'll see these types of mountains in the background. Now, these mountains don't have to be always used, in the kind of Asian kind of inspired looking scenario here. I've been out in like places like Utah, and if you color these things like red, you know, we're talking like, I don't know, maybe not quite Bryce Canyon or something like that, but it could be anything. But take a look at that, and you'll see these. There's this like veil of mist through this water. I don't know if it's a lake. It's not or is it the ocean? I'm not even sure if it's fresh or salt water, or this body of water going through those mountains out there. It might, maybe it's fresh. Okay, I don't even know. I don't know. It's such a vast area. Maybe it's salt. I don't remember. But take a look at those, and you'll see like this big areas of cloud and mist. I don't know. It's probably during a certain season too. It's like all day long. Beatrice has done many retreats. Yeah. Yeah. It's all like-minded people, having fun. Everyone's been looking forward to it too, and you know what I mean? They can just have fun and just create. You can feel the energy at those places too. Like even at conventions, I always felt that there's always this energy in there, but there's this there's make and takes going on, and everyone's just, I don't know what it is. It's just this atmosphere of creativity and I don't know, creation. And we're mostly creating things from blank pieces of paper and watching that transformation take place. It's really fun. Once in a while, maybe it was just at one kind of instructional retreat that I went to. I think there was this 1 hour or two that I didn't have a class where I took, they said, yeah, Kevin, you can sit in on these other classes. So I took classes too when I was there. That was the Napa Valley one with limited edition. God, that was a long time ago. But yeah, all right. So anyways, fun stuff here. I like the holographic here. I call this the Mystic series: Mystic Hills, Mystic Mountains, Mystic Trees, and I wanted to try it. Yeah, kind of, what could be, potentially kind of a mystic looking, color scheme in here. So even if this was just a still shot, where the colors have been developed on this paper, and it was just those colors alone, I think that would look pretty cool. But the fact that Look at even my hands above kind of affect kind of the overall look. I think that makes it a pretty fun and dynamic surface. Now, I've used this a lot before, but some people might be seeing this type of surface for the first time. But like I said, it's just another type of surface to work with. Keep in mind, there's holographic vinyl sticker paper too, where it's a clear laminate one, okay, where if you did a scene like this, okay, you can do it in black and white or something like that. And then you have this sticker paper and it's clear, but it has that patterning onto it. You can put it right over the top. That's the cold laminate one. It's basically a sticker, that you put over things and then it'll have that type of look. That's another type of thing, and they have different patterns to it. I don't know if Linda's not on right now, but she bought some of that by mistake, but she used it over the top of her scenes. A couple of scenes, I haven't seen her use one of that in a little while, but it was really cool. It gave the one she got was like little starry things, so it put it into those open areas. You couldn't really see it if there was something black in the background, but in the open areas, it gave you that look. So that's another type of option for you, if you get that type of thing. If you're more comfortable, hey, I don't want to work on top of that vinyl, holographic sticker paper, printable holographic sticker paper, you can just do something in black and white and just put your, holographic thing right over the top. And it looked, I don't know, from the photograph, it looked really similar. So I don't know, if it's a lot different or not. That one, I guess, you definitely wouldn't need a sealant on it. Oh, I don't seal my pieces like this. I don't feel they need to be really sealed off. I think there might have been something on the paper on one of the brands that someone bought. It said do not spray seal it. I don't know what it did. It might do something to the emulsion coating on this, but this is like really adhered on here, okay? And if I spray this, I don't really feel like it's going to enhance anything, okay? So even if this is handled a lot, I don't really feel the need to protect it at all. So I just leave these ones as is. With the media that I'm using, there might be some media on there that someone will use on it that, it would be prone to removal if you kind of rub your finger over the top of it. I don't know. In which case, maybe if you did anything, I would do like a spray fixative. Okay, so spray fixative, you just kind of give it a light spray, and it's a lighter coating on there that almost dries instantly, because the spray fixative, it's so you can keep working on something, usually dry media, and it'll seal everything off, where you can go with additional layers. You can do multiple layers of spray fixative and keep building it up. So they make that so it doesn't affect the things that are underneath, underneath the sealant, because they don't want it to affect it. They just want you to be able to keep working on it. So something like that might be beneficial. I'm not really quite sure. But like I said, I haven't sprayed any of these because everything adheres to it just fine without going into it. So I don't know, but play around with it. And if you have any questions about any this type of media or materials, the amount of materials used on it, the easiest thing is to, if you run into any kind of problems, is to just take a photograph of it and just send me an attachment, or email it to me or text it to me or whatever, and I'll take a look at it, and I can usually tell what's going on with it if you tell me what the paper is and what media you used on it, and be real specific in terms of don't say black ink. I use black ink. I need to know if it's VersaFine, or if it's a StazOn, or a Memento or something like that, a dye-based ink or whatnot. And we can usually figure out what to do, or the tweaks to make to make it work if it's not already. Okay, everyone, thanks so much for joining in. Had fun with this one. I'm going to do another one sometime, but I have a couple more pieces right here. I want to do a the other one. It depended on how long this one took to do today, but I'm going to do like a lookout tower like this, like under a, I don't know, whatever, northern light type of thing, but I wanted to do like a nighttime type of scenario with this one. And I wanted to do it vertical like that maybe. And have these different colors in my nighttime sky, I think. So I don't know, something real simple with that going on. And oh, maybe if I do something like that, I'd splatter paint it with a few little stars, or just add those in with the paint pen like that. But I think that would look really cool. And that's another one that would make a really cool bookmark, I think. So yeah. All right. So anyways, yeah. Thanks so much for joining in, and hope you have a great rest of evening.